Greetings fellow captains and welcome back to World of Warships with the Highhound, and today we're going to have our very first look at the Tier 6 German battleship, the Gneisenau. Now if you want to know a bit more in depth about its details and its history, please check out my Scharnhorst review video that we done a couple of weeks ago, because that delves into the details a lot more. Obviously, as people may or may not be aware, actually, the main difference between the Gneisenau and its sister ship, the Scharnhorst, they're both Scharnhorst class battleships, just to confirm, is the Gneisenau is fitted with 6 16-inch guns rather than the 9 11-inch guns that are on the Scharnhorst. This is due to well, I'll explain the story. There was some repair work being completed on the Gneisenau back in February of 1942, and whilst she was getting restocked and getting ready to ship back out, a British heavy air raid was launched, and a single bomb penetrated the forecastle of the ship, going through the arm deck and exploded. The bomb fragments ignited the propellant charges in the forward turret, causing a massive explosion. The turret was actually thrown out of its mounting, so the turret actually popped out of the ship. The entire bow section was burnt out, and the crew then flooded the magazine to prevent any more explosions. The blast killed 112 men and wounded 12 others. So, due to the extensive damage which was received, the naval staff decided to rebuild the Gneisenau and mount 6 16-inch or 38cm, 380mm guns that were originally planned on the ship's design. So, yeah, there we go. There's a little bit of a backstory onto the Gneisenau. So, let's get back into the gameplay. This was my first battle in the Gneisenau, I believe. I did free XP all the modules. I'll be honest, as you can see, we're aiming at the New Orleans. I've had a couple of games since, and the Gneisenau is very inconsistent, shall we say. I've been playing the Scharnhorst since its release, and well, if you're a follower of the channel, you've seen how well that's gone. We have a lot of very good, very consistent battles, whereas the Gneisenau I'm struggling with. To be honest with you, you've only got 6 guns, so you know the Scharnhorst's sort of, I don't know, the principle of the Scharnhorst, because it's got those 9 11-inch guns and they reload really quickly, is, you know, if you throw enough shit at the wall, it's gonna stick. But the Gneisenau throws a lot less shit because it's reduced by 3 guns. You know, it's typical battleship dispersion, so they're pretty inaccurate. So it does mean, you know, the Scharnhorst, it feels like, you know, you are completely and entirely at the mercy of the random number generator, or RNGs as some have known to love. Right now, I've noticed here that our western flank seems to have been fading a bit. There's a cruiser and a battleship making a beeline towards our cap. Also a destroyer not too far out. So we decided to turn the ship and head back and look at starting to defend rather than chase that one cruiser that was on our flank up to the north. So we take some speculative shots basically at the Ober over the island. You can see the New Mexico has just come into detectability range now. He looks like he had the same idea. He started to turn back to defend rather than continue down the western flank where we assumed he was. But we're gonna start aiming some shots in his general direction. We're turning now. We're looking to see, because we're assuming that Ioba should be coming into our visibility range, and that New Mexico is going to be behind that island for a little while. So we turn, still no Ioba. There's the New Mexico. Fire a full salvo, and the Ioba's popped up. This is why we turned around this island. Scored a couple of hits on the New Mexico, nothing particularly significant there. And typical, well, in good cruiser fashion, obviously he's turning away from us. He looks like he's making a mistake here because he's trying to kill the cruiser, and he goes undetected. He's reacquired, so we turn, we launch a full broadside. So 12 kilometers out, so this is, mid-range battles. He gets absolutely wrecked by the torpedoes, and we do finish him off with a Citadel hit, bringing us up to 39,000 damage. Now, I said the immediate threat, the only threat we've actually got currently on our screens available to shoot at is the New Mexico, who is turning towards his cap, trying to defend it from our pesky destroyer up there. So you can see we score some hits, but that's the thing with the Gneisenau. Getting the Citadel hits is rare. Now the Akatsuki's popped up, obviously a much bigger threat to us, with it being almost within torpedo range and very hard to detect. We receive some return fire from the New Mexico. We line up our shots. I have encountered the Tirpitz twice whilst playing in the Gneisenau, and I don't know if it's something to do. You see the shot dispersion? We've got 6 guns. We scored like 2 hits from a full salvo. That's what I mean about this ship. It's inconsistent, and without having the 8-10 guns that the other battleships have, you really are at the mercy of RNG. Look at that. I think we received 4 hits from the New Mexico as the New Mexico turns back in towards us to try and engage us. We've got ourselves up to 53,000 damage, which is fairly respectable. I'm pretty sure we're going to pick up a bit more damage as the battle continues. Granted, he's turned. I probably should have switched to high explosive to try and get some fires, but that's something I've struggled with the Gneisenau, because it's so inconsistent. Switching to try and cause fires, where on the chance that it actually hits anything at range, you'd rather it be an AP shell, so you'd actually get that permanent, that longer lasting damage against the ships. So the Akatsuki's still floating around. He's slinging torpedoes around. Still out of our range, fortunately, although we did start ducking and diving to ensure we don't get caught up. I've noticed something. I don't know if it's going to happen yet. We'll see when this salvo goes off. That although I seem to struggle to hit battleships from any kind of range, even when they're within 10 kilometers, somehow I can score hits on destroyers. It's almost as if the game is toying with us. So we're looking around. There's Nuremberg. Now the Nuremberg is very low health. It's a one shot, so sensibly I think we decide, he's gonna die. He's low health. One shot really is all we should need to finish him off. Very smartly, he turns to sail away. We score a really low damaging 1,000 from a single shell. As also we're angled now away from the New Mexico, so even if it does hit us, it should do minimum damage. But if you can remove a ship from the battle, regardless, you could be directly engaging anything. If there's a ship that's a one shot, you should take that shot. you should kill it, because it doesn't matter how many hit points a ship has, be it 60,000 or 2,000, it can always output the same amount of damage. So it's always the wise choice. If there's a ship that can be deleted, delete it, get it out of there. I believe we've done this a similar thing in one of our previous Scharnhorst videos, where we focused again a Nuremberg over a Scharnhorst, an full health enemy Scharnhorst at the time. So yeah, we've got rid of the pesky Nuremberg, so that's one less ship to fight. So it's just ourselves, 2 destroyers on the enemy team, and that pesky New Mexico left that has been peppering us for shells for the last couple of minutes. So we know they're over there. We turn back round towards our cap. We're looking at the last located position of the New Mexico, outlined by the white outlines on the map, and just waiting for him to come in range. We're detected by a plane, so we know they're close by. We do start turning a little bit. That's because, well, there's still 2 destroyers out there. Battleships that sail in straight lines usually don't last too well. So we've got the New Mexico at almost 13 kilometers out. Get our 2 front turrets going. We see our torpedo launchers have already been destroyed. As we set off, see, look at that dispersion. Did you look at that? They didn't even land in the same postcode as the New Mexico, and this is part of the difficulty with, like I said, with the Scharnhorst. It's inconsistent. If you fire and if they hit, great, but you can go. I've had games where, you know, I've barely managed to do, 20,000-30,000 damage, even though I've been firing my guns constantly, just because the dispersion is so bad. And it's not. I don't think it's due to any sort of lax. It could be. I'm just shit. But from previous games and our overall sort of stand-ins with our 60% win rate, we know what we're doing by this point. We keep on scoring hits, got ourselves up to 73 damage. We're dodging torpedoes. We're taking fire from the destroyers. I don't know what I was just doing there. I think I've changed my controller setup. So changing the switching of the fire to and the switching of the ammo types. Now we've looked. Our torpedo tube is destroyed. So we pull a hard turn. We can see both the destroyers. Our secondary guns are starting to open up, and you can see the New Mexico. You can see the lights going ting, ramming speed. Oh, well, the Gneisenau has some torpedoes. Denied. So we're down to 12,000 health. We've got 2 sneaky destroyers who aren't being all too sneaky now. Not entirely sure what that was. Whichever destroyer was closest to us, there he is. The Jarvis smoked up. The Jarvis has a very small smoke screen, and he was dull enough to climb out of it. And see what I mean? We can hit destroyers. Yes, he's only 7 kilometers out, but he's a destroyer. He's a tiny target, and this thing will just hit them every time. Unfortunately, our timer runs out, and as we get an award, I'm not entirely 100% sure what that award was. We'll see on the battle results screen. So as you can see, we end the battle with 105,000 damage with 40 hits. 3 hits with the torpedoes and the New Mexico to the end, 3 destroys, some flooding, 2 Citadel hits and 27 hits with our secondary battery. And it was, I believe, Dreadnought we picked up right at the end there, along with our high caliber medal. So thank you very much for sticking with us. I hope this gives you a bit of an insight towards the Gneisenau, and we just have to wait the 35 days before we can unleash the Bismarck. So until next time, take care.
you.